Good afternoon to everyone. This is actually the second time I was invited to come before the club, and the first time was a great pleasure for me, and of course, today represents a special occasion as well. I'd like to bring greetings on behalf of my many colleagues across the Southern University system. Again, I'm grateful for the institution. As many of you know, Southern University is the only historically black system of higher education in America. We are comprised of 5 campuses, which make us rather unique. The New Orleans campus is at one time we considered a commuter campus, but it's unique from the standpoint that it hosts a number of non-traditional students who are in effect pursuing undergraduate and graduate education. It's our urban campus in New Orleans. The Shreveport Campus is a 2-year campus, and again, one that really kind of specializes in healthcare professions and really bring those opportunities for students in Northwest Louisiana to enjoy very marketable careers upon graduation, even with a 2-year degree. The Law Center continues to be recognized here in Baton Rouge as one of the most diverse institutions of higher education as relates to the advancement of legal education. And our Agriculture and Extension Center, it has a presence across 52 parishes in this state and continues to provide extension opportunities, youth opportunities, serving as many as 700 youth each summer across the state of Louisiana. And of course, our Baton Rouge campus, the flagship campus within the Southern University system, one that offers both undergraduate, graduate, and opportunities to really provide for traditional students an opportunity to grow as leaders. You know, together, we describe ourselves with this mantra, we are Southern, we are Southern. But indeed, Southern University is known nationally as an institution who have been instrumental in shaping the African-American middle class of America. So what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit today is how we are actually trying to push out a new strategic plan for the Southern University system, and particularly Baton Rouge. We are actually calling this plan Imagine 20,000, and we are asking our stakeholders to consider the time on the horizon when Southern University Baton Rouge will host 20,000 students. We don't consider that to be a pipe dream. And we are shaping a strategy, if you will, that would bring that about. First, and it's pretty much threefold or multifaceted. The first thing we hope to do is be guided by experts. And ever so recently, we have engaged a number of stakeholders nationally. We asked them to participate in what we are calling a Futures Commission and asked them to provide us guidance as it relates to those variables that are impacting higher education today, but more importantly, that will impact higher education in the future, and to provide with us an opportunity to do some critical thinking to make sure that the Southern University system is well positioned going forth. Already through that interaction, we have asked the Gallup poll to really do a survey that took a critical look at the academic inventory at Southern University Baton Rouge, with the aim of telling us, upon review of our academic inventory, which programs are appropriately aligned to serve the stakeholders of this state and nationally. And so our aim going forth, as buffered by the faculty and staff of the SUBR campus, as informed, rather, by the faculty and staff of SUBR, will be to align our programs such that they fit the 4- and 5-star profiles that speak to the needs of the state of Louisiana. And we are in the process of doing that now, and actually think that will represent an opportunity for students to glean the kind of opportunities that would ultimately attract them to SUBR. And when I say 4- and 5-star jobs, I also want to just clarify that we want to nevertheless stay true to our mission. And so some programs nonetheless will be a part of Southern nonetheless. Teacher education, for example, and where there is a decline, even at Southern, for those students who are pursuing undergraduate educational opportunities in the Department of Ed, we believe that those type of programs define Southern University. And in fact, at Southern University in New Orleans, they were just a recipient of a grant program that would enable them to prepare teachers to teach in STEM disciplines. So we're going to look at this holistically, look at online delivery of instruction as a platform of helping us grow the university, and again, tailor inventory of degree programs that we think will be appealing to students who are taking a look at sustainable careers going forth, but also that serves to fill those voids that business and industry are representing as needs in the state. The second thing that we're interested in is building or ensuring that we have an environment that's conducive to learning. And so we're right now shaping a facilities master plan that speaks to our aim of developing a strategy for capital improvements and building new buildings and infrastructure that align with the information we're getting back from our stakeholders internally and externally. But that also means making sure that students are exposed to a stimulating environment outside of the classroom. And so more recently, Southern University, and we are going to implement it this fall, we developed what we're calling the Freshman Academy. And the Freshman Academy is really guided by the aim of taking students where they are, providing them with whatever supplemental instruction that is necessary to ensure that they're going to be successful. It's about selecting and recruiting faculty members who are interested in teaching first-time freshmen, and really providing those wraparound services that we believe will be effective in making sure that we retain our retention goals and that students do indeed matriculate in a timely manner toward graduation. We're looking at energy conservation strategies that have the promise of really transforming our campuses and providing for us the needed infrastructure to ensure that we have lighting, ensure that we have internal controls, ensuring that the classrooms are those that represent an environment that we think would support learning. And then lastly, and I said this the last time I was here, we are putting some teeth into the notion that we have an obligation to advance economic development here in our respective communities. Right now, we are literally working with some stakeholders, if you will, and trying to shape some partnerships that would enable us to have some move in an aggressive way an agenda for North Baton Rouge. We are also soliciting a law center, for example, who's engaged with agencies to bring clean water to our communities. I do believe that Southern University has an obligation, if you will, to drive economic development, and you're going to see a greater presence here in Baton Rouge and on our other campuses where we're going to try to push the agenda such that we could really make a difference, if you will, beyond the boundaries of our respective campuses. You know, all of this, of course, is in many ways contingent upon stable funding. And you know, I was before the Appropriations Committee, I believe it was last week, and I really saluted the legislators and the governor in particular for their diligence in providing support to higher education, particularly in this fiscally challenging environment. But I also encouraged them at the time that we need, as a higher education community, a community that in and of itself drives economic development, stable funding over time. You know, last year was the first time, and I want to say 9 years, probably closer to 10, when we were not subject to a reduction in funding for higher education. The first time in 10 years that we were not subject to either a mid-year or a cut that began our fiscal year. And I can tell you, my colleagues and I, we literally celebrated. We literally celebrated not an increase in revenue, but just stable funding. And just that 1 year provides us so much momentum going forth. I can tell you on 3 of our campuses, on 3 of our campuses, all 3 enjoyed increased enrollment. On the New Orleans campus, their enrollment of first-time freshmen grew by 40%. On the Baton Rouge campus, we recruited first-time freshmen that increased that number by 20%. And our overall enrollment grew not significantly, but by 2 or just short of 3%. And we're turning the corner. We saw evidence that as relates to retention on all of our campuses, that also grew substantially on both the Baton Rouge and the New Orleans campus. So we feel good about the direction we're going in, and with, if you will, with this strategic plan that we hope to guide us by, that the momentum is in our favor, but stable funding is a reality that is critical for higher education. I suggested to the committee last week that we have to get a handle on this on mandated costs. And we argued as a university community that higher education is probably unique as the only institution that has to really contribute, the only agency, rather, that has to bear the cost of mandated costs. For the Southern University system, that cost represents 77 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar we collect, we have to pay back 77 cents. And that varies per institution. For the SUBR campus, for every dollar we collect, we have to pay back 99 cents. I want you to think about that for a moment. For every dollar we collect, we have to return to the state at 99 cents. So there's no such thing then as a standstill budget. But what we have argued, for the most part, that just give us a glimpse of relief that would at least allow us to manage our resources. And I think we can demonstrate that we are good stewards of those dollars to which we ultimately command. I don't know how much more time I have left. But I close on this because you are hearing me, and I want to kind of clarify. Just want to clarify a couple of things, as I did last week before the committee, because I do think that Southern University has been unduly impacted by these budget reductions. All institutions in the state of Louisiana over the last 10 years have had to respond to reoccurring budget reductions. But Southern campuses also had to respond to the implementation of a policy that spoke to the implementation of emission standards. And so we're unique in a sense. Not only then did we have to respond to budget reductions, but we also had to respond to significant decline in enrollment based on the implementation of emission standards. Different. And that wreaked havoc on Southern University. And so to say that we are rebuilding now, where we are, in fact, adopting policies, that we have people that are listening to us in terms of recognizing the needs and the contributions of Southern University, that's important to us. And we certainly want to establish this platform such that we would continue to be able to contribute to the stakeholders of this state. So I'll stop there and answer any questions that you may have. I really wanted to just kind of take this opportunity to kind of talk about the strategic plan that we are poised to advance. We're calling it Imagine 20,000. And we are talking about a multifaceted approach that would ultimately provide for Southern University to host 20,000 students on the Baton Rouge campus.
What would it take to reach that goal?
Well, so it's a number of different approaches, one of which is the point to which we are currently trying to align our academic inventory such that it mirrors the 4- and 5-star jobs that are needed in the state to fill those workforce needs. That's a major endeavor. We are looking at investing more in online instruction such that we could relate and respond to non-traditional learners. And in fact, we're just taking a critical look at the existing inventory, choosing to invest in what we think will define the university, and thinking about new programs that we could bring on board that we believe will be sustainable to students going forth. We're looking at our physical plant with the aim of transforming the physical plant as buffered by state support, but more importantly from our alums who have already given indication of their willingness to support us in rebuilding an aged facility, if you will. And also when we start talking about infrastructure, we're talking about as well making sure that we have an environment outside of the classroom that's exclusive to learning. And then finally, the third component is making sure that we fulfill our obligation. That obligation being to drive economic development, in and around our communities. I think we do have a responsibility to do so, and so we're building infrastructure, working and reaching our hand out to other agencies, other community stakeholders as to push out that agenda by way of our internally through research and innovation, and externally by trying to partner in such a way that helps revitalize our communities.
What is the outlook for funding for higher education in general, and specifically for the Southern University system as we are currently in a legislative session?
Yeah, so I truly recognize the challenges of the legislative body, the governor. This is a precarious time for the state of Louisiana, but I have to also say that I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will ultimately receive the resources necessary to advance the agenda for higher education. I think to speak to higher education as an investment as opposed to a expense is critical for every member of the legislature. And the outcome of making that determination, I think, ultimately determines the long-term stability of higher education. So I hope that does take place because I could tell you many of the institutions of higher education are really excited about where we are. They're riding a wave of momentum based on not having been cut last year.
You mentioned this year being a fiscal year of stability, the first in 10 years. What is the link between a stable financial picture for a university and the opportunity to increase enrollment?
Yeah, I think it's directly linked. And if you could think about just having a stable foundation last year, and the degree to which many of our institutions across the state grew just without having been cut, think about what it would mean if we actually invested in higher education. I think it provides universities the wherewithal to fulfill their mission. Now, think about this. Our role is to serve the stakeholders of this state. And the degree to which we are fully funded determines whether or not we can fulfill that role.
If people have questions like more information about the Southern University system, what should they do?
I think the first thing to do is just go to our website. The website is www.sus.edu and/or www.subr if you're interested in the Baton Rouge campus. But as I pointed out, we're the only historically black system of higher education in America. We're unique. We are a place for everyone, quite frankly. And I think the state ought to be happy of the uniqueness of the Southern University system.